Jean was an absolute pleasure of interviewing. She has a business that she runs mostly on Sphere and past clients, and she time blocks for success. And what we're excited about is showing you today the specific things you can do in your real estate business to time block better in your calendar, and more importantly, how to time block to actually produce more and put some more commission dollars in your pocket for you and your family. So let's have a listen and see what Jean has to say. But awesome, Jean. So you are the #1 individual unit producer at KW Hudson based on units. You have sold more units in the first 3 quarters of this year ahead of most of your colleagues and things like that. So we're excited to actually kind of interview you today and talk a little bit about time blocking for success and some of the tips, strategies, and things that you have in and around time blocking. But first of all, how long have you been selling real estate?
A little over 25 years.
25 years. Awesome. All right. So tell me, was time blocking something that you've always had down, or tell me about your relationship with time blocking and how it relates to real estate for you?
Well, it's kind of ever evolving. I ended up having to learn to time block actually pretty early on. I had young school age kids. My husband was working a straight 11 to 7 job when I first got into real estate. And obviously, I had a lot to learn, still do. So I had to time block.
You were forced into time block because of your family life in terms of you said, here's what's important and things I have to get done with my family. And then, oh, by the way, I also got to sell real estate. What did it do for your business when you started time blocking?
I had to be organized, #1. And then it also obviously made me a lot more productive and more productive with my time. And I think it helps to focus as well. You have to be able to, one thing I learned early on as well is the only way you can time block and really have it work is to be able to shut out the noise. You have to set up times and spaces where that's going to work best for you. And that's changed for me over the years. So just because my life has changed. So
yeah, absolutely. So you time block for different priorities based on where you are in your life. Tell me about your day to day. Like, what does a typical day look like for you?
I do some light organization the night before, just so I, get up and kind of know where I'm at. My daughter Erin came on board to work with me 3 years ago when I came to Keller, and so then I generally will touch base with her, and I talk about our day and what we have going on, and then I take some time and just do the lead gen, follow up with clients, that type of thing. And from there, as everyone in real estate knows, your day is ever changing.
One thing I'd like to slow down and back up just a little bit on the first thing that you said, which I find very, very interesting because we do interview a lot of top producers like yourself. Congratulations on your success. But you said that the night before you get organized.
I like to take a look at my day the night before. So
yeah. You guys, I've heard this from top producers over and over, and I want to highlight it again. They very, very much think about their day in advance, and a lot of times before they go to sleep. And when they wake up, they can pretty much accomplish a lot of the things that they told themselves the night before. That next day is like an autopilot for them because they've already programmed their GPS on where they're going. And a lot of times they accomplish that stuff very, very quickly because they're so dialed in and focused on what tomorrow looks like. So Jean, thank you so much for highlighting that for us. Organizing your day, scheduling what your day looks like, writing things down right before you go to bed of the things you're going to accomplish the next day are some awesome tips. So thank you for that. Is there any tools or anything that you use for this? Like anything special that you like? How do you organize your day the next day? How do you organize it that day that you're in it?
For me, I use Google Calendar for a lot of things. It's a good way for Erin and I to be on the same page and interact and know what we have going on. It also keeps me on track and on schedule because it's on my phone, it's on my computer, it's right in my face basically all day. And we color code what we're doing. My color code is red, Erin's is purple. And so that way we kind of know, who's taking care of what. You can do the checklist. That's worked really well for us. And also command. That's kind of a learning curve still for us. So we're still working on that, but that does also help as far as keeping business organized. I'm able, when she puts things into command, she primarily is the person that takes care of that stuff, but I'm able to go back in and, find the things that I need. And it just makes the documents and everything accessible to both of us.
So give me an example of some things that you put in your calendar in red, because that's your color, right? So what are some things that you put in color? Obviously appointments, I'm assuming, but
Right.
what else?
If I have certain people I need to follow up with, I'll do that. More my tasks. A lot of Erin's tasks are more the administrative type things. But that way she knows too, if, for showings and appointments and such, she knows where I'm at and what I've got going on. So that's largely what I put in there.
Awesome. So you actually put your follow-up, you schedule time specifically for follow-up in your calendar?
I do. It kind of depends on what it is. I don't put everything in there just because the calendar is only going to hold so much. A lot of that I just have on my own. I know that. And I have a note written or whatever. But if it's something that's really important that I know I need to follow up with and don't want to forget about, I do put it in the calendar. And the nice thing I like about that too is there's a reminders section where you can put the reminders in. When we get an accepted offer or when I take a listing, Erin also enters in the calendar the contingency dates, the closing date, those important things are in our calendar as well, because then it's an instant reminder. When we look at the calendar, we can look as the week goes on or the month goes on, what things are coming up and what things are due, so we can just stay on top of them.
I'm assuming, do you time block your entire year in terms of important dates or vacations or anything like that? Do you try to do that, or is it more week by week and you hit it kind of in the streets? So
we do the year. It's probably more of a monthly thing, but we do the year, and we kind of take it as it comes. For instance, like on a listing or an offer, some of those dates are going to be, 30 days out, 60 days out, whatever the case may be. If there's an expiration date on the listing coming up, those types of things. So
what is your, how do you stay on track of all this? Is it just a habit for you? Or I know some people that when they're trying to get in the habit of time blocking, they actually time block. Their very first time block was to time block, you have a half hour, you got to time block the rest of your day out. Was it just because of your family life that you just kind of did it out of survival and then it became a habit? Or was it something you had to work at to kind of implement in your business?
I think it's kind of a combination of both. It was just kind of an automatic for me in a lot of regard, just because it was the way I had to do it. And I think at the end of the day, it ended up being a good thing. But I've tried to also fine tune it, I guess, if you will. And I've learned a few things over the years on how it makes me more productive in doing it. I've always had an office in my house, a home office. Obviously, I've always had an office as well in town. So I primarily, for quite a few years now, work from my home office, just because I like to have myself away. It shuts out the noise. It kind of, it makes me a lot more productive. So
yeah, let's go there for a second. What are like the biggest things that you either noticed early on in your career that come in and suck your time out, and maybe knock you off a track of time blocking? What are the things you should be very, very aware of when it comes to time blocking that could knock you off of that?
When I first started, I worked in the office more, largely because I was learning as well. And the office that I worked in, we had like little cubicles, but they were open to each other. And so there wasn't a lot of, closing off or privacy or anything like that. So I guess I found a lot of the distractions of, the chit chat and just things that happen in an office setting. And that's all well and good. And that's fun. And sometimes the networking and all that is good. But I think a lot of it, there's more time wasted, I think, when you've got those distractions.
Okay, so you watch out for people that maybe don't have the same goals as you that could possibly knock you off a track of your goals.
With the way I do it now, Erin is the one that's primarily in the office, and she can handle those types of things. And if it's something she needs me for, she can contact me that way.
Do you ever try to, get creative or get away from it, either purposefully or not, kind of on accident?
I think you have to get away from it because I learned the kind of the hard way in some regard, real estate can totally suck you in 24/7 if you allow it to. And I think you have to set boundaries, and you have to not be afraid to say no sometimes. And it's okay to tell a client that you're not available during this time. They don't have to know that it's family time. Your other appointment may be your kid's basketball game.
That is a veteran pro tip for anybody that's watching this that is new. Gene just said something very wise, that when your client asks you for your time and you have an appointment, or you have family time, let's say it's a basketball game, football game, kids karate class, something like that, and they ask you for time that overlaps with that, your response, a very wise response, is I already have a prior appointment at that time. And almost everybody always understands that. And they say, okay, when's the next availability you have in your calendar? Time blocking for family time is crucial and incredibly important. And I love how you protected that, Gene. That's something that I hope that a lot of our newer people in the business pay attention to and listen to, so that they don't get sucked into real estate, because real estate can absolutely consume your entire life very, very quickly.
I think the burnout comes when you don't do that. And I learned, like I said, I had to learn that somewhat the hard way. But I think you have to tell yourself and let yourself know that it's okay to have your private time, and it's important.
Sure. So when you start getting, let's say you get too lax or you start getting unfocused, is there something that you do that helps you get back on track with time blocking?
I'm very big on paying attention to your numbers. That's something that I learned early on as well. And you pay attention to them weekly, but monthly, I really pay attention to them. I sit down and look at we set a goal for the year at the beginning of the year, and then we break it up into quarters as to what we need to do to hit those goals. And then monthly, I look at, well, where are we on our track with that.
So when you are looking at your numbers, okay, and you realize, let's say you're behind where you wanted to be, how do you then correlate that back into your time blocking, your scheduling, and your day-to-day? What's that correlation? What do you do?
I look at the end of every month, the clients you're working with, what you've got for listings, what you're working on for listings. And I put it right on the calendar as to what I'm going to do to follow up with that. How are we going to turn that listing appointment into the actual listing? What are we looking at, and where are potential sales going to come from, and how is that going to fit into hitting our goals?
Awesome. So you turn around, get very, very specific of, hey, we looked at the numbers of either where we currently are, where we're going, and then you turn around, you get very, very specific of what exactly needs to happen in order to either catch back up or, really set up the next quarter or whatever it is. That is awesome. How do you guys, I'm going to get a little off time blocking a little bit, but how do you prioritize what you work on and then what your daughter works on? How do you guys, what's your thought process behind all that?
That's kind of an ever-changing thing. I was an individual agent for a lot of years, still am. She is licensed, but she primarily works on the admin side of things. When she came on board, I had to learn to delegate, actually, and that was kind of a learning curve, and still is, as to what things are better delegated to make and where am I best to put my time. So I primarily am the one that works on obviously the listings and the people things. She has taken over all the admin pretty much. And she does do a lot of the follow-up type things with just, contingencies and some of those types of things as well. And again, she's the one that's in the office where, the face that the clients are seeing when they're coming in. So.
Okay. Gene, one thing that you had mentioned was that you had made some hires in the past, and you said you didn't have the greatest success with it. One thing that I would like to point out is that when you had made a hire and you brought somebody in, you actually got to learn some things that you didn't like working with maybe that person, and then we had to exit the relationship. And there's a lot of value in that, and there's a great learning experience in that, because then when your daughter comes along and says, hey, I want to help with this, you can say, here's what didn't work. Mm-hmm. How do we make it so it does work? So I think a lot of times we beat ourselves up and say we weren't successful with that hire, but the truth of the matter is that that hire brought us one step closer to getting a much better fit, a much better relationship. And you're actually very, very grateful sometimes. I know I personally am for those experiences where, it feels like I messed it up and I didn't work, but the truth is it actually just moved the ball down the court a little bit farther, or down the field a little bit farther, to where I knew exactly what I was looking for then. What do you think is the number one most important thing that when it comes to time blocking? What is, like, if you had like to do just one task, what was it be in and around time blocking that's the most important?
I would say follow up, lead gen, because that's where your business comes from. I've with as long as I've been in real estate, I've got a fairly large database, but that database doesn't do you any good if you don't use it. And you're easily forgotten if you don't stay in touch with people.
Yeah.
And sometimes my networking isn't even phone calls, emails, texts. It's more just being out in the public, and it's people and that type of contact with people I enjoy the most. And I think sometimes I get the most off from that. If you run into somebody at the gas station or the grocery store, things like that, I think the more casual, just keeping you in their mindset, I guess. I think those personal networking type things, I think sometimes are more effective. Because I think we all get tired of inundated emails and things like that. And you need to do some of that, but I think sometimes picking up the phone, maybe I'm a little old school in that regard because of when I got into real estate, but a voice on the other end sometimes, rather than always a text or an email, I think is more personal, and I think people remember that more.
Gene, just a complete curiosity question from myself is, how often, like if you have a new relationship or maybe a new lead or an online lead or something, like how often, at what point do you give up on the follow-up?
A lot of my business comes from repeat business, referrals from my clients, referrals from friends and, people in my sphere. I will work those leads a lot longer than just like a general, lead that you get just from like an inquiry. A lot of the online leads that you get are, it takes more follow-up. Those aren't as instantaneous. They take a longer timeline. So those I will work. I kind of hit them close together to begin with, and then I'll just do more of a drip thing from there. And then, I guess after, if you're looking, it depends on the type of lead and what it is. After a certain amount of time, I will relook at them, just because you, again, want to prioritize what leads are worth my time and what leads are not.
Sure. So depending on the type of the lead source, it seems like you're pretty relentless with your follow-up and your lead generation, in terms of you just keep kind of going after it. And depending on, if it's something that is just an inquiry, you will attack that a little bit differently than if it's a personal referral. But I was just kind of curious. So thank you so much for that. Okay, if you're helping somebody who might be new to time blocking, or not necessarily, they haven't time blocked a lot in the past, helping another agent time block for success, number one, what would you be your kind of advice for that person?
I think protecting your space and your time, and the distractions, shutting out the noises, for me, been the number one thing.
Well, I mean, time blocking in and of itself is protecting your time.
Right.
And you just removed one of the greatest things that could knock you off, is you physically removed yourself to a place where you are isolated, but where you protect your time and use your time to the best of your ability, which I think is very, very smart. There's some people that get too distracted at home, and I think that was what you were talking about, where, if you're isolating yourself, but if you're at home and the only thing you're thinking about is cutting the grass or doing the laundry or, whatever it is, and it's hard for you to focus at work, well, then maybe you need the environment of the office and close your door. But physical isolation, I think that's a great tip for everybody, is physically remove yourself to protect your time. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. I think it's different, like you said, for everybody. If you are a person who's going to be distracted by the home things, then the office may be a better option. And my, as I said before, mine has changed over the years. When I first started, I was more in the office. I think you have to go with what works for you. And as your life changes, I think you have to change with it, just like as the business changes, you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Anything else that is important to you that you think we should have covered up to this point, or that you believe that somebody listening to this in real estate should know?
To work on your business and not in your business. And that for me was, it kind of made me rethink things and refocus things, because again, you can get yourself so caught up that you're spinning your wheels is what it amounts to. Working more, outside looking in, take a step back and, just kind of refocusing and working on my business and not in my business.
That is great business advice. Okay, so we surveyed a lot of our agents, and we said, we've got about 600 now, kind of across Wisconsin and some into Minnesota. And we surveyed them, and there was kind of three main topics that came up. And I'd like to kind of rapid fire them at you, kind of just putting you on the spot here with it. But your absolute favorite source for generating new leads, what is that?
My sphere.
Sphere, okay. At second after your sphere?
Repeat clients.
Okay.
And past clients.
We do a lot of these, and it's the same thing every time. So that's great. I'm hoping people hear a pattern with that, and then they start making sure they're putting all their contacts in a database of past clients and spheres, because that was a mistake I made early on in my career where I wasn't doing that at the highest level I could have been. Okay, Gene. So if I was able to pick you up, take you out of your market, you don't know anybody, you have no sphere, and I move you, someplace in Michigan or Ohio, and I say you need to start taking listings here. You're new to real estate in that area. Walk me through what you do.
I think you have to get yourself out there and known so people know you're there. And in my case, I did have a big sphere, but I was a hairdresser for years, and I had to have people in their mindset think of me as a realtor and not a hairdresser. And I think it's the same thing. If you go to a totally new area, you want people, when they think about real estate, to think about you. And so the starting point of that is to get yourself out there.
Yeah. Awesome. How about marketing? Your favorite way to market yourself? Maybe this through networking and just getting out there, but favorite marketing technique?
I think right now, obviously Facebook has become a huge way of marketing. What I like about it is it's cheap. A lot of marketing is very expensive, and the beauty of Facebook is, it's pretty much almost free.
Yeah.
Well, that has become one of my new favorite ways of marketing. And again, that is partly credited with having Erin come on board, because she's younger and is in that, that age group and mindset. So
yeah, getting out there and doing it. Well, Gene, thank you so much. You were it was an absolute treat being able to interview you and talk with you. Congratulations on such a successful year. We wish you continued success, and thank you so much for giving your time to us today.
Thanks for having me.
No problem.